Facebook, coming in YouTube, getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants. Got a little bonus episode for you guys here today, and this is one I wanted to do yesterday, but I had a lot going on yesterday. Probably was not good timing to do it yesterday, but it's definitely perfect timing today to be doing this. So come on in. We're going to start over on Instagram here in just a moment. I wanted to get started a little bit early. I find that when I go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time, sometimes I don't nearly get the traffic that I usually get. So I don't know if that's just people are busy right now. I don't know what the issue is, but 11 a.m. I get a lot of traffic because that's kind of a chosen time that we do these. So hello, Mark. Hello, Kira. Hello, Robin. Thank you all for being here today. Hello, Pear. Thanks for being here as well. And Debbie. Welcome into my YouTubers. Come on in, you guys. Getting ready to start my show, Jimmy Rants. Going a little bit earlier than I normally do. I try to go at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but I just felt like I wanted to get on the air sooner than later to do this specific episode about this specific topic that you see pinned there. So something that's on my heart right now, something that quite frankly needs to be said, and nobody is saying these things that I'm about to share here today. So hope that this goes over well. Robin asks if I'm doing well. Thank you. I am doing well. I'm a little disheartened about what's happening in our country, quite frankly. What's up, Abel? And so I am one of those people that likes to be a uniter and someone who's willing to put his name and face out there. And I've taken some arrows the last 24 hours for some things that I've said. And so I want to get out this message here today because I think this is a missing piece in the discussion of what all is going on right now with people trying to dance around an issue and they talk to each other. And I want to talk about how communication really can be the key here. Hello, Beth. Hello, Jacqueline. Robin says, no kidding, I'm learning stuff though. Yeah, I've learned more in the last kind of 24 hours than I have my whole life. And you know, it's certainly no fault of my own. It certainly was never on my radar screen. It's just now that it is on my radar screen, I got a little more understanding of kind of things that are going on. And I definitely want to impart some of that on both sides of this. And hopefully we get to some understanding here today. So I'm real excited to get going here. I am going to get going now, so feel free to share this on your page and share it everywhere where you're a group if you feel like it's useful information. What's up, Hank? It's definitely something that's been on my heart. I've been ruminating on this, and my love for people requires me to do this. So I feel compelled to do this one here today. I don't know how people are going to take it. I don't know if there will be misinterpretation. I ask for forgiveness ahead of time if I say things the wrong way. My intention here is good, so stick with me here. Hello, Amanda from New Zealand. Always appreciate seeing my international friends on here as well. All right. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. I see you guys there. Thanks for being there today as well. We're going to pop on over now to our Instagram Live page and get this show on the road. So here we go. Is a lack of communication effectively what's holding us up in this talk about race? Find out today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner and you'll get to see the full episode of this show. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content, but you gotta go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live just like all these amazing people coming in right here, right now. Thank you guys for being here today on Jimmy Rants. We're also simulcasting over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here. And finally, we're also simulcasting live on my YouTube stream, so thank you guys for being here, all a part of the Jimmy Rants family here today. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. As soon as we're done with these, we put them right up on Instagram television, and so you can go check it out there. We also put them up over in replay form over on my YouTube channel. If you just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. And then finally, JimmyRants.com has all the past episodes, 500 plus and counting. And you can definitely engage there and support. If you like what we do here, I try to give an eclectic amount of material to keep you entertained and educated and informed. And so go check it out. Click on that Patreon page if you want to support what we're doing here today. But guys, today is probably the most important Jimmy Rants I've ever done. Simply because I see a huge void in what is happening right now in this discussion about race and race relations and social injustice and all the things that are out there right now. And I know that a lot of people are staying silent right now because you just simply don't know what to say. And then those who are speaking up don't always realize that there is a certain language and a barrier in the language being used that makes communication almost impossible to do. And I'll give you firsthand experience. I've been writing about this race relations issue and how we need to be more supportive of the Black community and as white people, and we're supposed to, love everyone, and we're all part of the human race, and we're all in this together, and oh, I'm not racist, I would never, blah, 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 blah. And I was putting out these messages all over social media, thinking, and from a good heart, this is what I want people to hear. You can come at this from a very good heart with the purest of intentions and still flub it up. And I'll give you an example. If you pay attention to the sports world, Drew Brees is the future Hall of Fame quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And he got into trouble because somebody had asked him what he thinks about the move to social injustice, trying to bring more attention to it, and Colin Kaepernick and blah, 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 the kneeling. And Drew, unbeknownst to himself, started using language that was offensive to the Black community. He didn't know that. In his mind, the things he was saying was, well, my grandfather served in the war, and I don't think it's right that you kneel, da-da-da-da-da, and thus that's what I believe. And of course, some of his Black teammates kind of called him out and said, dude, are you tone deaf? Why don't you understand this? This is so obvious to us. And then he issued an apology today once he became enlightened. Kind of like me. I had a very sweet lady last night on Instagram named Beth who took the time. She's in the health space, so she's a fellow health influencer. She took the time in a series of DMs to explain how my language was being offensive to people of color. And I'm going, whoa. Like, in my mind, to say we're all a part of the human race, that seems so innocuous, right? That seems like, well, yeah, like who would disagree with that? But what a person of color hears when you say we're all a part of the human race is you're not acknowledging their plight. I never stopped to think of it that way. And of course, it also feeds into that, well, you didn't think of it that way because you have gotten an advantage in this world, which is something that people of color have not had. So that was one thing that I kind of went, whoa, like I never stopped to think about how when you say all lives matter, or when you say we're all a part of the human race, that is hurtful in some way to the Black community. Did you know that? Like, I had no idea. And when you come at it from a very sincere, caring, loving heart, I didn't see it. Because my motives were pure and were not meant to be hurtful whatsoever. So what happened was people would see that kind of message and go, oh, you're so tone deaf. You need to get with the program and understand our plight or shut the hell up. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Like, I honestly did not realize. So in this topic we're talking about here today, and if you're just joining us, yes, we're talking about race relations. I think the missing piece in talking about this subject is we don't know how to talk to each other effectively because we don't speak the same language. We're all a part of the human race sounds really good to a second segment of the population. To another segment of the population, no, Black Lives Matter. And in that second population, they feel like we aren't being seen or heard. So we need to say Black Lives Matter because we're the ones with our building on fire. Okay? So when you say we're all a part of the human race, they feel slighted because they don't think you see and hear the plight that they're going through. This has been an eye-opening education for me as a white man, not a racist white man, but just a white man, lives in the South. I suppose the stereotype is because I live in the South in the United States that I'm somehow racist. I don't. My dad, I will tell you this, my dad was the biggest racist of them all. He used to repulse me by the things he said coming out of his mouth. I'm like, really? But he was a product of that generation that they just used the N-word indiscriminately, and it was just ugly, ugly, ugly. And I was always disgusted by it. Disgusted. Even though I was a part of a high school that had 70% African Americans. And then I went to a college, which again was heavily attended by African Americans. And some of my best friends in both high school and college were African Americans. And I'd be the one white guy out on the court playing basketball with all these guys. And I never thought of it that I don't see race is actually offensive as well. Because they want to be seen. They want you to know that because of the color of their skin, they have certain disadvantages in this world. I don't know or won't ever know what that feels like to walk out of my house as a black man and to have to be taught things. Like I've watched a few videos where you have parents who are teaching their young black boys, don't keep your hands in your pants because they will think you have a gun. Don't go into a store and have like an overcoat and hide your hands because they will think you're stealing something. When you're walking down the road and you see a white person coming at you, don't be surprised when they walk on the other side of the road. Like all of these things never even crossed my mind at all. But that's why you can't say all the kind of common phrases that we're saying. Again, if you joined us late, we're talking about this because I think there is a language barrier. We're using words that we feel are innocuous and the black community feels is an attack. And then you hear words from them like Black Lives Matter and you're like, no, all lives matter. And it becomes this like butting of the heads. And I think if we came to a better understanding of why the black community feels that certain things we say in the white community are offensive and vice versa, why some of the things that we say are offensive, but some of the things we hear from them, they need to hear our perspective of why maybe some white people don't like the phrase Black Lives Matter. I now get it. I understand it. It means that they want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want the oppression to stop. They want the stereotypes of black people to stop ostracizing them from society. And if you look at our history, I mean, obviously none of us alive today were active slave owners, but our history was that the white man had slaves, and most of the time the slaves were of African descent. And so that's a part of our history, and we can't forget that that's part of our history. Doesn't mean we sit there and dwell on it, but you got to know that like the civil rights movement happened in the 1960s in America. That's not been that long ago. We're talking just over a half century ago. And so we can't expect that things would just have magically fixed. And I think most of us have lived our entire lives, most of us in the white community, have lived our entire lives, well, they're integrated. Well, they're a part of society. Well, they have the same opportunities that we do, so I guess all is well. In the black community, they feel like, okay, I feel like because of the color of my skin, I'm denied opportunities in employment. I feel like I have to act a different way that a white person does not have to act So you see how one side has all of these narratives about what they believe, the other side has all these narratives about what they believe, and they don't jive. So, what I think would help with this is if we learn to effectively communicate better. Let me tell you how a breakdown in communication happened from firsthand experience. So I've been writing about the race relations. I've been posting things all over social media. And yesterday I shared a meme that I made that had statements that I'd made in various posts, and then how other people, and I will tell you this, it's not black people that have told me some of the responses. It was all white people. All of them, who are standing up for their black friends, and I loved hearing from them, but it was the way that they were responding. They were like lashing out at me. You're tone deaf. You need to educate yourself. You need to shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. You need to read this book. You need to read this website, or you just need to just go away. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is the answer to silence people who have questions? No. Effective communication requires that if somebody doesn't understand something, you don't lash out at them. And especially if it's someone that you see as coming at it from a truly curious and loving heart. And guys, those of you that watch Jimmy Rants, you know I have a heart for people. I come on here every single day providing so much content on so many topics. I have nothing but love for all people. So for people to now question that and question my motives was kind of hurtful. And I'm sitting there going, okay, thank you for sharing that you disagree with what I wrote, but tell me where I got it wrong. And literally nobody could tell me what I had done wrong. Nobody could explain it. I was just getting, hey, evil. I mean, they were just coming at me hard, especially here on my Facebook page, not this specific page, but on one of my, I think it was Keto Talk Discussion, I got just the ugliest of ugly. I'm unfollowing now. You're tone deaf. You need to be more educated, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. Nobody was educating me. Not one single person took the time to say, all right, here's where you got wrong. When you say this is what's being heard. And if you said this, it would show that you care more. It would show that you understand the issues, da, 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 da. Nobody took the time to do that until Beth over here on Instagram in a direct message took the time, was patient, and answered all my questions and all my objections and all the everything that I had about this. Why? And she was a white girl. Why did it take a white girl to show this white man what's the right way to talk? Now, I get it. Some people are like, well, we shouldn't have to tiptoe around. We shouldn't have to walk on eggshells to get our message across. But guys, if I'm purposely hurting a community of people and I don't even know it, that has to be communicated. And so I'm making the argument here today that race relations really could stand to benefit if we all learned how to communicate better. And it's this communication that I think is the key in why there's so much conflict. Drew Brees was a victim of this yesterday. He had good intentions in his heart. His grandfather was in the military. They loved the flag. And he was asked about Colin Kaepernick and his kneeling for social injustice. And Drew Brees was like, well, I didn't agree with that then, and I don't agree with it now because I think the military should be honored. You don't desecrate the flag, blah, 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 blah. So when he said that, he was honoring his grandfather, honoring the military background and love for country, and blah, blah, blah. He didn't realize when he said that was hurtful to the cause of the social injustice movement. And he reversed course today. If you haven't seen that, go to ESPN.com, has the whole story. You can see all the quotes. But the point is, if you don't know, you don't know. And I feel like the vitriolicness of this whole conversation is what's bogging everything down. And if we just learned love, kindness, compassion, and understanding from both sides. A white person does not need to have a knee-jerk reaction when you see that Black Lives Matter. We don't. We don't need to just knee-jerk reaction think that that's somehow an affront that your life doesn't matter. It's not about you right now. You're not the one being oppressed. You're not the one not feeling comfortable when you walk out your front door. You're not the one worried about a white cop maybe killing you. Okay? So that's why they're so adamant about Black Lives Matter. That phrase does not mean no other life matters. It just means we need to be seeing that. And that's the other thing. They want to be seen. So when you say colorblind, they feel like that's an affront. Now, that seems innocuous. Oh, I'm colorblind. I don't see race. That's an affront because they want to be seen. They want you to see that because of the color of their skin, they're having issues in their own life. Just simply because of the color of their skin. And it's an eye-opener for a lot of white people. There is a book that's been recommended over and over and over and over and over again since all this went down, called White Privilege. I want to get the audiobook, and I'm definitely going to listen to that. And I think just from the things I've read about it, and I've seen a few videos about it from the author, seems to explain a lot of what we're talking about here today pretty clearly. And I feel like if we as the white community and those of us who love people, those of us who want to see this resolved, because I honestly believe that most of the white community wants to resolve this strife that exists with the Black community. I don't think very many of us want this to continue on. I'll tell you, Black community, many people have just felt frozen and have just retreated from saying anything. And I think we all need to be a part of the discussion, which is why you have the whiter than white Jimmy Moore today here on Jimmy Rants talking about this subject, because don't silence voices that could be one of your biggest allies. And that's been disheartening too. Well, you're white, so therefore you have nothing of value to say. No, I'm white, but I love people and I love resolving issues and being a part of the solution to things. And so when you put out things that are seemingly innocuous and people take offense to them and they say you're a part of the problem and you don't explain why, that's the problem. Which is why what Beth did, taking the time out of her busy schedule, we talked in DM for probably an hour. And we went back and forth with various things. She said, this is what you're doing. This is how you could do it better. And I'm going, well, what about this? And we went back and forth. I posted all that on social media today, most of that conversation, if you want to go look at it. But the bottom line is we have to communicate better. And so I pulled up some articles here. One of them is Barriers to Effective Communication. This is from skillsyouneed.com. Because I think if we're going to communicate with one another, first of all, can we just give each other the benefit of the doubt? Can we explain things clearly without getting our emotions caught up in it? I get it. This topic is highly volatile. I get it. The Black community feels like they've been so oppressed for so long that they feel like they need to kind of scream the message, because you probably feel like you've said these things over and over and over and over and over and nothing has changed. So just know, white community, that's kind of what's going on as to why there's such pushback and why it's so volatile to even talk about this. But Black community, hear us out. We mean well. We want to help you in this. We are not your enemy. We're on your side, and we want to do things to resolve this just as badly as you. Now, that said, there's bad apples on both sides. There's people in the Black community that would love nothing more than to keep the strife going. And there's people in the white community that would love nothing more than to keep the strife going for whatever their purposes. But most of us, the vast majority of us in the middle, want this to end so we can move on in life and live happy and healthy, which is what we all want. So I don't believe for a second that most people don't want this resolved. I think most of us do. So I want to impart on you some of the barriers to effective communication. A lot of them will apply to this specific topic. And when we get to one part of the barrier, I've got a separate article that I thought was really good. I've got another article I don't think we'll have time for today, but it's about the specific barriers related to race, and it's from Psychology Today. I might save that for another Jimmy Rants for another day. But today, I just wanted to get this message out that if we're going to talk race relations, don't shut out the white voice. I know there's this perception, white voices have talked for so long, it's time to let the black voices talk. I agree, let's hear. But let's hear it clearly. Most of the time, what I'm seeing is there's a lot of, you just don't understand, you're tone deaf, I'm disappointed, and nothing gets resolved because we're not learning. It took a white woman to teach Jimmy more. And that's a shame. Because I wanted to learn and nobody was teaching me. They were just lashing out, lashing out, lashing out. And I just took so many punches and I'm going, wow. Like in my heart of hearts, what I wrote was perfectly fine. And it had to take someone to explain, when you say this phrase, they hear this. When you say this, they hear this. And I was like shocked. Somebody communicated and communicated effectively so that I could get it. And now I'm trying to communicate with you guys here today so you get it. All right, so let's look at these barriers to effective communication. There are many reasons why interpersonal communications may fail. In many communications, the message, in other words, what is actually said, may not be received exactly the way the sender intended. It is therefore important that the communicator seeks feedback to check that their message is clearly understood. As someone who's in the business of communications, and I do this all the time with my work with keto and health and cholesterol and fasting, I have to just always be mindful that not everybody's going to understand things. And it's from many years of podcasting and interviewing people that I've learned the skill of, when I hear something that maybe I know, I explain it anyway on my podcast. So it often comes up on my podcast where a guest will say some acronym for something, or they'll say CBC or WBC. And so I'll be like, so for those of you that don't know, CBC stands for complete blood count. It's a test that they run that runs all kind of things. And the WBC is the white blood count. So I know that. I knew it going in. When I heard it, it just wasn't a big deal that maybe he could move on and keep talking. But I knew that there were people in my audience that did not know what CBC and WBC meant. So I explained. Now, did I have to explain for my knowledge? No. Or did I have to ask the guest, what's that mean? Or if I don't know, I do say, what's that mean? And this is the kind of thing that I think would be helpful to make sure the message is clearly understood. So you need to develop skills of active listening, clarification. That is a huge one. Like when I put out there that we're all in the human race, somebody should have said, yes, we are all in the human race, and I appreciate that you're coming at this from a good heart. But when you say we're all in the human race, you're not understanding the plight of the black community, which is why we say Black Lives Matter. So it's not that we're denying that we're not all a part of the human race. We obviously are. But because we have social injustice going on and we have issues in our community, we say Black Lives Matter. You matter too. Yes, we love you, but we need your help to help shine a light on why Black Lives Matter. Can you see how that clarification had just one person in one of the comments explain that? Now I get it. Some people are weary because you felt like you've explained it a million times. Welcome to my world talking about keto. I get the same friggin' questions over and over and over again. But you know what you do? You explain it. You share it. You have resources available that they can learn. And that's what I think needs to happen here. So this clarification takes place. And then reflection. That's what I've been doing. Since I've learned these things and started kind of mulling them over in my head and realizing all of the kind of ways I've thought about things over my life, and now putting this new context of how words have been interpreted in a totally different meaning from what I originally intended, reflection has helped me there. And it's why I'm so passionate here today on camera to deliver this message to you guys, because I think we all need to be actively listening. We all need to be clarifying what we mean when we say things, and we all need to be reflecting. A lot of times in the comments the past 24 hours, people are like, well, you're not listening. No, I was listening quite well. What I was not hearing was hearing. I wasn't hearing anything other than you're a bad person, you're saying this all wrong, you're tone deaf. Where does that get you? If you're a member of the Black community and you see a white person write something like, we're all in the human race, all lives matter, rather than lashing out, can I make the suggestion that you gently say, thank you so much. I really appreciate where you're coming from. I agree that all life does matter. But at this point, the Black community house is on fire. And we need help. We need your help, white person. We need you to help amplify what's going on with the social injustice. We need you to help us be a voice so that people see us and hear us and know what's happening to us and know the challenges that we have simply because we were born in dark skin. And then you explain why that hurts to say all lives matter, why we're all in the human race hurts. And then say, can you help us so that we can get the message out there more that Black lives matter? Can you imagine if people took that soft tone in responding and didn't just automatically have a knee-jerk reaction that there was ill intent in those words that were delivered? How different the conversation would be. Now, you're still going to have some you-know-whats out there that are going to take it the wrong way. Well, I still think all lives matter. Okay, fine. You did your part. You educated them and their ignoramuses. But for most people, they're going to go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you heard that as a negative. Okay, see how all that works there? You also need to be aware of the barriers to effective communication and how to avoid them. There are so many barriers to communication, and these may occur at any stage during the communication process. Barriers may lead to your message becoming distorted. We've been seeing that a lot lately. And you therefore risk wasting your time by causing confusion and misunderstanding. And can I tell you, confusion and misunderstanding are the two perfect words for what I've seen happening to anybody writing about this right now. From the Black community, you're seeing leaders there posting, oh, Black Lives Matter, and you need to see us, and we need to be seen and heard, da, 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 da. And the white person's not getting that message. The white person is saying, oh, we're all in this together, we're all a part of the human race, all lives matter, I'm not racist, da, 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 da. And the white person has no idea that's not being communicated well and taken well from the Black community. You see how these words that are meant well on both sides are being taken in a very different way. And so those are barriers, you guys. So effective communication involves overcoming these barriers and then conveying a clear, concise message. Now, this is general advice about having clear communication and overcoming the barriers in general, not just about race relations. I do have a whole article I won't have time to get into today, but I definitely want to look at a whole article just on race relations and how there are various barriers to a good dialogue. But general principles here today, because I wanted to get this message out there that we need to see that there are two different angles to looking at this issue. So the first barrier is the use of jargon, overcomplicated, unfamiliar, or technical terms. Now, in this case, I don't think there's anything overly technical, but unfamiliar when a white person in general hears Black Lives Matter, there's a knee-jerk reaction that happens in the brain of a white person that says, well, why do only Black lives matter? I don't get that. Or are you telling me I don't matter? Are you telling me anybody that's not a black person doesn't matter? Because that's what a white person hears when they hear that. So the jargon is Black Lives Matter. And in the mind of the black person, they're saying Black Lives Matter because, look, we haven't been given a fair shake here. You need to hear us. We want to be heard and seen. We want the social injustice to end. We want to be able to walk out our door without having fears that something bad's going to happen. And see, that's the thing. The jargon is Black Lives Matter. It's not being communicated what that means. So, black community, when you say Black Lives Matter, I think it needs to come with the caveat of explaining what it is. Because a white person is hearing it and there's the knee-jerk reaction in their brain of hearing that, oh, so I don't matter. And then, of course, I've seen the response back from the black community when people say all lives matter. White people say all lives matter, and they're just like, well, you just don't understand. Well, you're right, we don't. Help people understand why Black Lives Matter has a totally different meaning than what is being heard by the white person. Is this hard? Is this unreasonable to ask for that clarification like we were talking about earlier? Active listening, clarification, and reflection. Because I think once the clarification is made of what it means, a lot more white people will be on board with that. The next barrier, emotional barriers and taboos. Some people find it difficult to express their emotions, and some topics may be completely off limits. Gee, I wonder what topics should be off limits. Things like politics, religion, disabilities, mental and physical, sexuality, like if you're gay or not, and sex, and racism. So we're not supposed to talk about these things, but racism is at the top of the list of things right now being discussed in our culture. And so are we just going to just shove those to the side and act like they don't matter and act like they're not there? No, we should be talking about them. But we need to realize, white community, that the black community is feeling pretty oppressed right now. They're feeling like they're ostracized. They're feeling like forever they've not been heard. They're seeing people that look like them being killed by white cops, and they're being killed by other people as well, but the visual that's out there is that they are being oppressed. And we need to acknowledge that they have an emotional tie to that because that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's son. And we just need to know that that's why they're having such an emotional attachment to this issue. The next barrier is a lack of attention, interest, distractions, or irrelevance to the receiver. And so a lot of the black community might think, well, nobody in the white community is talking about that. This is what's really interesting too. I was called out last weekend or last week, somewhere around like 2 days after George Floyd got killed. And it was one of my white friends, and I've known her in the health space for 7 years. And she basically said, you're tone deaf right now. You should only be talking about this issue with the race, and you're exerting your white privilege and your white supremacy. You're just a racist. You need to be talking about this. And I'm like, whoa, like what? And it just came out of nowhere. And of course, in my mind, I'd already seen what had happened to George Floyd. I had already been thinking it through. I was kind of grieving, what in the world does this mean and what can we do and blah, blah, blah. And then all the riots started happening and all the everything. And I was kind of taken aback because I was already in the process of formulating my thoughts about what I thought about this. But here was somebody pushing me because they felt like I was not giving it attention in the timely manner that they thought. Now, let's be clear. You can think about this, grieve about this in the length of time that it takes you to think and grieve. It's just like when someone in your family dies. Not everybody grieves the same. Some people are boohooing right away and it hits them really hard. Other people, like my brother Kevin, when he died in 2008, I was not crying in the midst of him dying. I was kind of the strong one in our family. It was only after he died and like months later that just suddenly, boom, it just hit me. And I was crying uncontrollably. And so we have to be sensitive to the fact that everybody grieves at their own pace, processes information at their own pace. Plus, I'm the kind of person that's not a knee-jerk reaction. So if I hear something, I don't just immediately react. I hear something and I kind of go, like I'm reflecting on it. And I think we all need to take a breath and not think that mere silence in the timing that you want things to happen means that you don't have any care for that issue. It might mean that either you're still processing or you're just not sure what to say. And I think that needs to come across loud and clear. How about differences in perception and viewpoint? I've kind of hit that pretty hard here with this instance with race relations. The perception and the viewpoint that's different than our own, we need to be hearing those things. And so, but that's a barrier. It's a barrier because if you can't hear those things because you're not having it articulated to you like I was and did last night, how are you supposed to see it differently than what you perceive it? And here's the other thing. In anything in life, we all have our own perspectives based on how we lived our life, based on all the everything that's happened in our own lives. We come to conclusions about how we believe now. And so give people a little bit of grace. That is so desperately needed right now, more than ever before. Let's just give people the benefit of the doubt and not just assume the worst about them. Oh, by the way, that friend of 7 years that I've known in the health space and a wonderful person, I sent her my article today where I basically was saying all the things I learned. And I apologized to her and told her I appreciated that she was trying to communicate well with me. She basically cut off all ties with me and ended the friendship abruptly, which was disappointing because at the end of the day, she felt because I did not respond immediately to her, and she was very forceful in the way she was talking to me because I didn't respond positively to her first initial contact with me. She felt like I was rejecting her and therefore she's rejecting me now. So that's unfortunate. I'm okay, by the way. It wasn't like it was a close friend I talked to every day, but it was someone I cared about, I still care about, and had respect for the work they were doing. But unfortunately, that's the choice that she decided to make. The next barrier, physical disabilities such as hearing problems or speech difficulties. I don't think that applies to this one, to this issue. Physical barriers to nonverbal communication, not being able to see nonverbal cues, gestures, posture, general body language. This is interesting because a lot of the discussions happening are online now. Drew Brees posted what he did here on Instagram. A lot of things are being conveyed in only written form. You're not seeing the body language. Now I'm here on video here today, so you can see my face, you can hear me talking, you can see the kind of me moving my facial expressions. So you can get that nonverbal communication. But a lot of this is going right online in written form. And so people aren't always able to get the nonverbal communication. Language differences, difficulty in understanding accents, that doesn't apply. Expectations and prejudices, which may lead to false assumptions or stereotypes. Now, this is a big one. People often hear what they expect to hear rather than what is actually said. And as a result, they jump to conclusions that may not be correct. So they link to another article called The Ladder of Inference to explain it. So have you ever found yourself perplexed at the way someone else has interpreted something you said or did and put a meaning on it that you never intended? Perhaps you found yourself enraged by someone's comment or action and you concluded that they must be acting against you for some reason. This is called climbing the ladder of inference. It was first proposed by Chris Argyris back in 1970. The ladder of inference is a way of describing how you move from one piece of data, a comment, something you observed, through a series of mental processes to come to a conclusion. So you start off, you guys, by selecting from the data. You translate it through your own prism and your own eyes. You explain it to yourself about what it means, and then from there you draw a conclusion. It's dangerous though, because it all happens so quickly in your head, and you probably are unaware that you're only selecting some data to choose from. Nobody else sees this thought process or even knows what stage you've gone through to reach the conclusions. All they see is the action that you take as a direct result. So your beliefs tend to reinforce this data that you select and how you interpret it, which means that it becomes a positive feedback loop. In this sense, positive doesn't mean it's a good thing. Instead, it means that the feedback drives the process onwards instead of stopping it, therefore confirms what you already believe. So you can kind of take your own example of this with what's going on right now with race relations and take it to the nth degree. They give an example, but it doesn't really apply here. Just think about, though, all the things I just said about how you jump to conclusions based on data. So I suppose we could take Black Lives Matter, for example. So when a white person hears Black Lives Matter, process, no other life matters. Process, why do only Black lives matter? Process, oh, we're all a part of the human race. What are they talking about? All those things get jumbled. And in a split second you go, no, all lives matter. What? No. From the black community perspective, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we've been oppressed. But then they hear all lives matter. All lives matter. No, you need to see us. We want to be seen. Why are you saying all lives matter? We're the ones being oppressed right now, not you. White person, you have had privilege your whole life. We're the ones with the plight right now. Why are you diminishing what we're saying when we say Black Lives Matter? Don't you understand? And now you see the inference on both sides and why one group gets angry about one thing, the other group gets angry about the other thing, and they just need to communicate effectively. This is why I'm doing this Jimmy Rants today, guys, because I don't hear anybody else talking about how we need to be speaking each other's language. And right now, white people are speaking white language, black people are speaking black language, and they're not the same language. Okay? So how do you avoid climbing this ladder of inference? First of all, you have to accept that you are always going to draw meaning and inference from what other people say and do based on your own experience. It's just how your brain and how people work. If we did not use past experience to help us interpret the world, we would be lost. Nobody would be able to learn from their experiences at all. The issue then is to draw on your experience, but in a way that does not make automatic assumptions about other people and their behavior, or which allows us to check back on those assumptions. So there's a book called The Fifth Discipline Field Book by Rick Ross, one of the standard organizational learning texts, and he describes 3 ways you can change to improve the way you communicate and avoid climbing the ladder of inference. You guys ready for this? Number 1, you become more aware of your own thinking and reasoning. So this is reflection and reflective practice. So if you don't already kind of reflect on things that you think about and hear, if you don't already reflect before you project, how many people are just projecting right now without reflecting? A lot. Let's stop the projecting and let's start reflecting. Number 2, you can make sure that others understand your thinking and reasoning. So this is where communication comes in, and that's advocacy. So this is where people are sharing from their experience and sharing their reasoning about where they got from, but they're not sharing it in detail. I'm calling for us to explain in detail. If a white person wants to say all lives matter, well, I think all lives matter because all human life does matter. I don't understand why we need to single out just Black Lives Matter. I think every life matters, and so all lives matter. So that's a white person explaining it. then the black person can say, I agree, all life does matter. But in this case, what we're trying to do is bring attention to our plight, which is why we say Black Lives Matter. Doesn't mean we negate you, white person. It just means we think you need to be seeing what's happening to us and helping us and being a part of the solution. What white person's going to go, no, still think all lives matter? Okay, a few. But a reasonable person will go, oh, I see what you mean now. And the process of change starts to happen in their head, right? Number 3, you can ask questions of others about what they're thinking and then test your assumptions. So if you have assumptions about things, clarify. Just clarify. If you think Black Lives Matter is an affront to all lives matter, clarify. Ask questions. This is the inquiry phase. This is what Beth did to me last night. And again, thank you to Beth here on Instagram for bringing it to my attention as to why some of the things I was saying was being taken really badly. And I think if we go through this process of avoiding climbing this ladder of inference, it can help so many people. So when you consider your own thought processes, beware particularly of any piece of information that you just take for granted. For the white person, all lives matter. Of course they do. Of course all lives matter. What are you talking about? All lives matter. Like it's not even on the radar screen that all lives don't matter. All lives matter. And that's why it's kind of pushed in people's heads. But what you're doing is you're likely to be deeply rooted in your own belief, and it's worth stopping to examine to make sure you're not really, or that they are really a fact. Yes, all lives matter, but yes, that's not what we're talking about here. It's not about you, white person, right now. It's about the black plight and the things that they're having to go through, which is why Black Lives Matter. I wonder if there was a phrase that they could have come up with that would have been less, I guess, caustic, because that phrase, Black Lives Matter, seems to be caustic to a lot of people. But when you explain it and you know what it means now, it's not that way. Some of the time, at least, you'll find that others do not see them as right at all, and that's going to happen always. All right, so I think that was all from this one. Let me get back to the other barriers. There was only one more, cultural differences. So people from different cultures express emotions in a different way. And so, yeah, there's cultural differences. And, you know, let's be honest. There's black culture and various things that happen within black culture. And then there's kind of a white culture. And it's okay. I love watching black comedians make fun of white culture. I was watching one the other day. What's his name? Cat James? Cat something. I forget. It's K-A-T-T. You guys will know who I'm talking about. But he's hilarious. Like, and when he goes into this voice of talking like a white person, I'm like busting out laughing because he's kind of pointing out cultural differences. And not all white people laugh at that kind of humor. I happen to love it. So, but guys, effective communication would resolve so much of this strife that's going on with race relations right now. And I'll be the first to admit, I've been a victim of this, of trying to say things that mean well, but they come across as very hurtful. And now I know better, I'm doing better. And I'm trying to help you guys understand, you guys in the white community, understand why how you say things matters, and vice versa. I'm trying to talk to the black community of, this is where we're coming from. We're not coming at it from hate. We actually are coming with good intentions. So don't judge us for saying the wrong things. Gently say, you know what? I love that you're trying to be a part of this discussion. Thank you. Don't be quiet, because being silent means you're agreeing with the way we're being treated. And so by me speaking up, I'm telling you I care and I want to be a part of the solution. So help me be a part of that solution. So many things we can do better, and I'm hoping that this Jimmy Rants here today helped you out. All right, so let's come over here to Instagram, then Facebook, finally on YouTube. I told you this was going to be a Jimmy Rants like no other here today, so I hope you've appreciated this information. Welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com is the website. Beth says, if anyone remembers Blue-Eyed, Brown-Eyed experiment from the 60s, Jane Elliott, still active. Find her on YouTube. Good. Thank you for that. Anna says, I didn't grow up with any kind of racism. Neither did I, by the way, other than my racist dad. But I was not actively racist in my peers. I do understand because my parents are Holocaust survivors. My home was open to all. My dad worked on a tobacco farm in South Carolina with the black slaves. Wow. So I get how they feel, she says. Kat says, saddest part that you need to explain your grief. Common sense is not so common. Yeah, like I was really upset about what happened to George Floyd. Like seriously ill upset. And this is something the black community needs to know. We were just as outraged by his killing as anybody. We were. And a lot of us were shocked and we were like, what do we say? How are we going to stop this from happening again? And I think that maybe that didn't even cross the minds of the black community that white people would care, but we care. And I think when I was pushed to try to grieve quicker and start talking about this quicker, it kind of took me aback. Some people will twist and turn the truth and hear things they want to hear. Feels like 2021 truth bending and twisty. I'm hoping this messed up 2020 becomes the best thing that's ever happened to our country. Because yes, COVID-19 sucked. And now all these riots and the race relations stuff sucks. But if we come out of it more conscientious of our health, more conscientious of the plight of the black community, man, like what else would have made that happen? I'm hopeful that there's good things that come out of 2020 of what looked like a really crappy year. Kelly says, I love this conversation. Thank you, Kelly. We need to be having these conversations. This is the reason why I'm on here today, is I want to be a part of an agent for good in this discussion and not just more a part of the bickering back and forth. That does no good for anybody. All right, thank you, Instagram. Pop over to Facebook. We'll be over to you guys in a minute here on YouTube. What's up, you guys? See what you have to say. Robin says, I'm learning lots of stuff. Yeah, I think we all are. Nancy says, I think the fact we're having this conversation is a sign that things are changing for the good. Nancy, I hope so. And I'm trying to be a part of that conversation. Norma says, Beth is the best. I've followed her for years. She's taught me a lot, and I'm glad you met her. Yeah, I honestly had not been following her work, so I looked her up. I'm like, dang, girl, you got a bunch of followers. How have I not known who you are? And so I might bring her on my podcast within the next few months. So to be honest, I'm afraid to say anything. I don't want to offend anyone, and I'm afraid I'll inadvertently say something wrong. Nancy, that's what I'm talking about. We don't need to be afraid to use words. I understand, because a lot of us who have been using words and saying things and saying them the wrong way have gotten blowback, and a lot of people are seeing that, and that's shutting them up. That's silencing them. To me, that's sad. I think the better thing is, let's all talk, and then if we say something the wrong way and talk from a pure heart of love, trying to understand and blah, 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 and we say something wrong, rather than lashing at people, why don't we speak the truth in love? Why don't we say, thank you for your effort here. Let me explain why what you said here might be interpreted another way for the black community. And then vice versa. If someone in the white community says something, rather than being lashed back at, vice versa, explain. Show compassion and love and respect. This is what's missing in this whole conversation. Oh, I see my brother Ron Garrett's on here. I'm going to try to get Ron on one of my podcasts soon to talk about this subject, because I think we need to have more open discussion of this. Abel says, yes, more conversation needed. We all need to be patient and understanding with those looking to be educated and talk through this together. Abel, that's been the sad part. Rather than people talking, it took a white woman to explain race relations to Jimmy Moore. Now, I get it. There's a lot of high emotions right now, but I think it could have been avoided had someone just taken the time like she did to explain things. Jacqueline says, thanks for this episode. I support and applaud you totally. Thank you. I am trying to do my part because now my eyes are open. and I want to be a part of the solution. I love people. Anybody that watches and follows my work, if you don't get the theme song that Jimmy Moore Loves People, I don't know what else I can do, because that's been my total theme song. I come on here every day and do Jimmy Rants. Don't charge a dime for it, because I love people and because I love communicating. I love teaching. Those are all gifts of mine, and it's my heart. Genuinely, it's my heart. Thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here to YouTube, see what you guys have to say. Shirley says, I'm terrible with words, so I've been silent for the most part about this because I'm sure it won't be taken the right way that I mean it. And to me, that's what I think needs to come to an end. I've been told, well, if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything at all. And I'm like, why is that the answer? Shirley said, all I said was, I'm bad with words, but I'm really good at listening, doing my best to put myself in other shoes. I hear you and my heart breaks. So she's posted that on social media. I just don't understand. Well, if you don't know what to say, just shut up. I'm like, no, I don't want to shut up. I want to be a part of the learning process. I can't learn if I can't talk. The only way I learn is to ask clarifying questions. The only way I learn is for someone to gently tell me if I say something that doesn't come across right, that you tell me what I did was wrong. All I got yesterday when I posted things like we're all in the human race, and I don't have racism in my heart, and I'm colorblind, all people did was lash out and say I was tone deaf, didn't know what I was talking about, you need to shut up. And I'm going, what? Like, I was coming at it from a sincere, positive, loving heart as the kind man I try to be. And I felt like, I basically felt like that I had said the most vicious, ugly things, and I didn't say anything of the sort. So let's learn to communicate better with each other. We need to, guys. We need to, for each other's sake. All right, let me come back over here. We're running out of time on Instagram. See any final comments that might have come in. Marnie says, this is exactly the conversation we need to be having. That's why I'm on here today. And I knew it was a risk to come on here to talk about race relations, because you never know how people are going to take it. But I'm hoping my message of let's more effectively communicate comes through loud and clear. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content right here on Instagram. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live, just like all these amazing people did here today on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here. And then finally on the YouTube stream, thank you guys for watching live on YouTube. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay here on IGTV. Usually goes right up after the show. Within a few minutes, I put a few show notes in there, and it goes right up on my page. Go check out at Livin' Low Carb Man. We also put all the past episodes over on YouTube. So type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show. Also, you can type in youtube.com/LivinLowCarbMan and find it. Finally, you can go to JimmyRants.com and see all the past episodes there. Ken says, yes, Black Lives Matter, but watch out for the organization. Well, I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. The concept of Black Lives Matter is what I've communicated here today. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate you listening. Please share this far and wide. This is a message I hope gets out there and people understand that my heart was a good one here today in sharing this. So until next time, we'll see you then. All right, we are done. Save that bad boy and set it to the side. That was a tough one to do, because you never know how people are going to react. And I have been told point blank, do not talk about race relations. Shut your mouth. You have no qualifications as a white guy. You're too privileged, you've been given everything in your life, which, no. I was given a raw deal in life. My dad beat the shit out of me for 3.5 years when I was a teenager. Set me back 15 years in my personal development. And then I had to work my way and worked hard to get there. But this issue has nothing to do with that. This issue has to do with there's challenges in the life of a black person that I'll never know. And so, yes, I had difficulties. Yes, I had challenges. But a lot of those challenges I had, they have those, plus being a black person. So I wanted to get that message across here today. So hopefully mission accomplished. But thank you guys for watching here on Facebook. I'm going to get off of here. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, YouTube. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you again soon.